2 years ago, the Philippines began a brutal war against the drug gangs in which thousands of people died. Human rights activists and journalists charged the police with illegal killings, charges which President Duterte has vigorously denied. My guest this week here in Manila is his legal advisor, Salvador Panelo. Is the administration actively sanctioning and even encouraging murder on its own streets? Salvador Panelo, welcome to Conflict Zone.
Thank you for having me.
Your president says he's old and tired, and he's been talking again about stepping down. In February, he said, "I've no more ambition." Who needs a president who's got no more ambition?
That's more of an expression of, would you say, exasperation and disgust over certain things that do not come out as he expected. But he is not stepping down. He'll finish his term.
He says, "Guys, I want you to know I'm thinking of stepping down because
He just wants to tell the people that he's not the kind of politician that will cling to opposition.
So you can't believe what he says?
Not really. Everybody is entitled to express one's frustration or exasperation on certain circumstances.
But he's doing it constantly. He did it in February, he did it August the 19th
That's his style.
again.
That is his style. That is why he wants.
This is his content. It's
That
not just style, is it? You can
Well,
either believe him or not.
He would have not won the presidency if that is not his style. Cursing is one of them. Being very brutally frank is another.
In his August the 19th speech, he said that he would hardly make a dent in his remaining 4 years in office. So who needs that either?
If the corruption continues, if the drug menace is not stopped, then he would be right in saying that.
He's already failed to deliver on his promise to clear up the drug problem in 3 to 6 months.
You're wrong there.
This was his initial promise.
You're wrong there because
3 to 6 months.
The drugs mechanism is being slowly dismantled.
He said that he'd clear it up in 3 to 6 months.
Oh, because according to him...
What was this? Was this hyperbole as well? This was his style?
When he was still a mayor, he thought that the problem was not that huge. He realized when he came into power, with all the resources, that it is not.
He overestimated his own abilities,
No,
That's the point,
He overestimated the problem, or underestimated the problem, rather.
How much of what he says these days can you actually believe, then? I mean, I've seen you wheeled out in the press and television to explain that he didn't really say what he said he said. The latest example was June 22nd, when he caused an uproar by saying, "God is stupid."
Well, he didn't say God is stupid. He was only questioning the logic behind the theory of creation. You don't read the lips of the president. You read his actions, his body language.
No, I read the quote. The quote was about Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and he said, what he did was, Eve eats the apple, then she wakes up, Adam, so Adam eats the apple, then malice was born. Who is this stupid God?
Exactly. He was asking the theologians, or what do you call it, the writers of the Bible that created the story. It's not God who created the story, remember? It was not God who came down and told us, "This is how I created you, guys." He didn't say that. They created the Bible and they gave us a theory of creation. Now he's questioning the logic behind it because he says, you make a perfect situation and you try to destroy it yourself.
It's not just the logic, is it? He doubled down. A couple of days later, he said, "I didn't say that my God is stupid. I said your God is not my God because your God is stupid."
Yes, because
And the bishops reacted.
Yes, because...
En masse.
Because...
Abusive, they called it, and offensive.
Because they didn't get exactly what he wanted to tell them. If you are the Christian groups or the Catholic, why should you feel offended when your own theory is being questioned? You explain to the person questioning the rationale behind that. You don't feel
the church wasn't buying it. The Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines issued a sermon criticizing people in power who boast of their own wisdom and blaspheme our God as stupid. So they're accusing him of blasphemy.
Well,
they don't buy your argument.
It's wrong. They misunderstood the president. In fact, he said several days later, "I apologize to my God. I was telling my God, I'm not referring to you."
So he did say it. So he had to apologize. So he did say it.
In his mind. in his thoughts. That was, he explained it to Brother Villanueva, one of the Christian groups.
Mr. Panelo, is he a killer, your president?
No, he's not.
So
But he's against killers.
You have explained some of what he says as hyperbole, exaggeration. That's how you described his claim that he had roamed the streets of Davao City when he was mayor and personally killed people. This was an interview you gave February last year. But that's not hyperbole. He said he killed people.
Yes, but out of self-defense. Those killers were killing people. And he was part of the operation.
How many has he killed?
He has not said so to mine.
But he went out and killed people, did he?
In self-defense, yes.
How many?
I don't know. You have to ask him.
You have no idea? Was never investigated? Or is he too powerful to investigate?
Well, he was investigated, but he was found out not to be guilty. The human rights did that.
What about the police? Was he never investigated for murder by the police?
Nobody complained.
But they're dead. They're dead. The victims were dead.
In this country, there is a rule of law, and we follow certain processes. You have to follow the rule. You file a complaint. The preliminary investigation is conducted by the prosecution to determine probable cause. If there is, then a case is filed in court. Without that, you cannot investigate.
You said he killed in self-defense. He said when he was 16 that he killed a man for looking at him the wrong way.
I don't know about that.
Do you even know if he did kill anybody?
I did hear about that. It's only now that I'm hearing it.
Anyone ever bothered to find out whether that was true?
No, I don't think so, because I never heard about him. Maybe you said that, but I did hear about it.
No one interested in the truth anymore in this administration? Really? Well, whether he killed or not? Whether he killed a man when he was 16?
Apparently, the people are not interested. You're the one interested. Why don't you conduct your own investigation?
He was, in fact, elected on the back of a promise.
Overwhelmingly at that.
On the back of a promise to kill, wasn't he? He said, when I said I'll stop criminality, and if I have to kill you, I'll kill you personally.
It means that he will go to the ends of the earth to pursue you if you commit crimes in this country.
It means he'll kill you.
Again?
Doesn't it? Don't you ever take him at face value? Don't you ever take this man at face value?
You don't
take him at face value.
You don't take him literally. He's a lawyer. You must always remember he's a lawyer.
No, so lawyers don't deal in facts.
He works within the context of the law. We can kill out of self-defense, yes.
That was another big promise he couldn't deliver on, wasn't it? He didn't stop criminality.
He's stopping it.
He said, my chase against graft and corruption seems to be endless, and it has contaminated almost all government departments and offices. That's not a claim of success, is it? That's not a claim of clearing up criminality.
You must remember he has 6 years to do that. He is only in the second year and has fired so many officials, including relatives, friends, fraternity brothers, and acquaintances. So what can you ask of the man? No president has ever done that.
You defended him in 2016 over his plan to pay bounties to police and military for killing or bringing in drug dealers. You said the law allowed the policy under the concept of citizens' arrest.
Of course, yes.
But that wasn't about arresting citizens, it's about shooting them, isn't it? With no questions asked about whether they got the right person or not.
The accusation is the policeman killed him without any resistance. But the facts is not as they claim to be, or are not as they claim to be.
Last year, Human Rights Watch said the Philippine National Police and its agents had repeatedly carried out extrajudicial killings of drug suspects and then falsely claimed self-defense. You always deny this. You always deny this.
If that is true, then we would have a complaint filed against the policeman. Now, there are cases filed against the policeman, but due process will have to go through. They're facing charges in court, and there is trial.
But last October, in response to a public outcry about killings, especially of children, your president removed the police from the anti-drug operations and assigned the PDEA, the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, just for a few weeks. So there was some substance to it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have taken that action, would he, against the police?
He assigned a PDA, but in coordination with the policeman. So there was not really a change.
Two results from your policy, your drug war so far. Your police have killed more than 4,279 people during their operations between July 2016 and May this year. And the human rights groups that you hate, say as many as 12,000.
I don't hate the human rights group.
You don't?
They dispute what they claim.
But they say as many as 12,000 have actually died at the hands of police, hired killers, drug syndicates, etc.
They exaggerated that.
Killing is so much easier than holding trials, isn't it?
No. Killing happens because there is resistance to police authorities. Otherwise, there would be no killing.
Only under those circumstances.
Yes, absolutely.
And the other effect of your policy is that the murder rate has actually gone up in the country. Maybe because people are following the presidential role model. Is that it?
Murders happen because of certain reasons coming from those who are behind them. It could be personal. It could be gangland style, like drug lords killing each other when their transactions, you know.
The murder rate in Metro Manila was up by around 112% from July 2016 to June 2018. Those are the police figures that were issued in July this year.
Murder is only part of crimes. I'm saying that the crime rate, including everything, every kind of crime, has been reduced considerably.
And murder has gone up. When he was running, I mean, there's no accountability, is there? There's no accountability.
There is accountability on the part of those who murdered, not the president.
When he was running for president, Mr. Duterte was quite specific on the issue of accountability. He promised he'd give himself and members of the security services immunity from prosecution. And his own words were, "Pardon given to Rodrigo Duterte for the crime of multiple murder, signed Rodrigo Duterte." So that pretty much trashes the idea of any accountability, doesn't it?
Not really.
At the top.
Under the Constitution, the president has the absolute power to pardon. Now, he tells the public, as well as the policemen, if you do police operations within the context of the law, then I will do everything to protect you. But if you do not, in his speech, in his first sonnet speech, he said, "I have declared war against the drug lords. But police officers who abuse this authority will have hell to pay because you are worse than criminality itself." That was directed to the police officers.
You seriously think your police care whether they've killed a guilty or an innocent person?
Of course.
So bad is your police behavior that last year you were forced to go to South Korea.
There may be some police bad elements, yes.
Last year you were forced to go to South Korea to apologize for a serious crime committed by your anti-drug forces, the kidnapping and murder of a South Korean businessman, Ji Ik-ju. Even you called it a dastardly crime.
But that is a noble gesture on the part of the government,
Police
going there
murders.
and expressing one's apology.
G was kidnapped by members of your police anti-illegal drugs group in Angeles, Pampanga. He was then strangled inside Camp Crame, the main headquarters of the Philippine National Police. Obviously, doing it in the main headquarters meant that they weren't scared of being found out. This was business as usual.
You must remember
this was business as usual, wasn't it?
You must remember that worst of crimes are committed in any part of the country, the best of countries in the world. Crimes are committed by even the police force of those
We're
particular
talking about
countries.
your police.
Yes, but you're trying to generalize. I'm giving you a specific circumstance where these crimes are also committed in other countries. Why zero in on the Philippines?
Did it in their main headquarters. At no point did they seem to have been worried at all that they had to conceal what they were doing.
I'll tell you why.
They didn't even conceal it.
I will tell you why they did it. Because if I were the murderer, I would have done it there. You know why? Because nobody would think that crime can be committed inside the PNP. And they can get away with it. But they did get away with it. They're now facing charges. They're now in detention.
The other way of looking at that, Mr. Panelo, is that it was so commonplace that nobody would tell it apart from all the other murders that were going on.
That's another way of looking at it. But the fact is they're in detention and they're facing charges in court. And most likely they will be prosecuted successfully.
No, you want the Philippines to withdraw from the International Criminal Court.
Of course, for many reasons.
You were scared stiff when they announced in February that they had begun a preliminary inquiry into your war on drugs.
It was not. There are many reasons why this country has to withdraw. First, the ICC has no jurisdiction over the Philippines simply because that particular law was not published. And under the Constitution...
Just because it didn't appear in your
First,
Gazette.
you must remember that the Constitution imposes certain requirements before a law is made valid and effective. That was not done here. Number two, the provisions of the ICC statutes violate our Constitution. What? One, it does not observe the immunity from suit of an incumbent president. That's against,
Mr. Panelo,
that's against our Constitution. Number two, they do not recognize double jeopardy. If one is acquitted here, they can still sue.
The International Commission of Jurists called your reasons for withdrawing a litany of poorly thought out, pseudo-legal arguments and self-serving statements that focus on President Duterte's fear and resentment at facing questions on the horrific campaign of extrajudicial killings that his government has endorsed. They're not buying your notion. They're not buying your excuses.
That is one view of a particular human rights group. But you must remember there is now a pending case in court precisely to determine whether or not there is a valid withdrawal. So we have to wait for that. There is a pending case, and it's sub judice. We should not even discuss about it.
Why all the insults when there's criticism? Why all the tough talking? I mean...
He's tough. He has been doing that as a mayor, and he never lost an election.
He says, F you to the EU, F you to America, sons of whores, his favorite epithets. You think you win friends and respect with
when
that?
the Filipinos voted him, they factored in all those kind of characteristics of the president, and he won overwhelmingly. You like that kind of talk? You think it's clever? You think it's clever? What I'm telling you is a statement of fact. That has been factored, and the populace, the electoral population voted him in office. Now, I have been with him in all foreign visits, and the leaders of these countries are in awe of the president. They praise him publicly.
Who's in awe? In the United States? In Europe?
No, we have not been there. I'm telling you where we have been there. Asian countries, particularly.
China? China's in awe of him?
Of course, China's included. The president there praises him in public.
Really, this is why the Chinese, in a recent documentary, were heard telling one of your military warplanes to get out of the area of the Spratly archipelago, otherwise they would be responsible for the consequences. And your president was so hurt, he said in a speech afterwards, "Why do you say nasty words to us? We have no intention of attacking." He was so shocked that his new friends, the Chinese, couldn't care less what he thought. And couldn't care less where your military aircraft go. But they were telling you to get lost.
Well, as far as the China is concerned, they're doing what they should do insofar as their security of the country is concerned. Insofar as the president is concerned, you cannot do that to us because we will fight you even if we lose in a war. You don't do that to us.
He just meekly,
in other words, he just meekly
said to the Chinese, no, he said meekly to the Chinese,
no,
how can you talk to us like that? Why do you say such nasty words? Where was the tough guy then? Where was the tough guy with the Chinese?
You didn't listen to the last words of the president. You don't do that because if you do that, I'll fight you, even if we lose. You didn't hear those words? You only look at the first opening sentence. Why are you saying that?
That said a lot.
But that
said a lot.
No. What said a lot was the last sentence when he said, because if you do that, I'll fight you. I'll declare war against you, even if we lose.
You're heading towards a dictatorship in this country.
No, I don't think so.
Because Mr. Duterte promised it back in October 2015.
No, what he said,
it's going to be a dictatorship. It's the police and the military who will be the backbone. At that time, he said about the presidency, I won't do it if you want to place me there with a solemn pledge to stick to the rules. If you don't want that, okay, look for another son of a bitch.
When he was a candidate, he said, if all things fail, if Congress opposes things that I want to have it in place, then I'll declare a revolutionary government. You must remember that this is an election, and this particular promise or commitment is or was factored in. So when the people voted him in office, they expect him to do that.
What, to have a dictatorship?
To have a revolutionary government if everything fails.
You're talking about a dictatorship.
But according to the president, it's not failing.
You're talking about getting rid of your political enemies, for instance. Like Maria Lourdes Sereno, the Supreme Court Chief Justice.
Well,
his fingerprints were all
she
over
was-
that, getting rid of her, because she was a critic of his policies.
You're not a lawyer. I don't know if you're a lawyer, but you're not a lawyer in this country. I'm a lawyer. The Constitution says if you don't file your statement of assets and liabilities, you are not qualified to hold office. And that was what
On April the
happened to her.
9th, he told her, I am putting you on notice that I am now your enemy and you have to be out of the Supreme Court. That was a dictator speaking,
No.
wasn't it?
That
was
was
a dictator
that
saying,
was a statement-
I'm going to get you out. And he did.
He
did.
No, not really. That was a statement
really?
in
What?
exasperation. She was ousted not because of him, but because she violated the law and the Supreme Court ruled exactly what the Constitution orders it to do.
Mr. Panelo, perhaps nothing says more about the character of this administration than your decision to grant the former and long-dead dictator Ferdinand Marcos a hero's burial at the Cemetery of National Heroes. This was in November 2016, a move described by the former Chief Justice as a grave abuse of discretion. What's the aim here, to bring brutal tyrants and thieves back into fashion?
He was just following what the rules say regarding presidents to be buried in the Libingan ng Bayani, or cemetery for great men and heroes and martyrs and presidents.
You were at one time a lawyer to the Marcoses, weren't you? And on a TV
No.
program in 2006...
Not really the Marcoses, Imelda Marcos.
Imelda, she was one
Only
of the
Imelda.
Marcoses, yeah.
Only Imelda, and with respect only to an habeas corpus proceedings.
And on a TV program in 2006, you denied that the Marcoses had any ill-gotten gains.
Because the New York acquitted her of what? Racketeering charges.
10 years later,
Yes.
by 2016, your state had recovered some $3.7 billion in assets that the Marcoses had stolen. So your claim was demonstrably false, wasn't it?
Not really.
He was a crook.
Charges against the Marcoses, until now, they have not been convicted. There may be...
When she was back and elected to the Philippine House of Representatives, she boasted in an interview, there's more money that the government isn't aware of. We own practically everything in the Philippines.
Not because they stole from the government.
Of course they stole from the
She
government.
says,
And you put them in a hero's graveyard.
no, that cemetery is for presidents, heroes, and martyrs and soldiers. That's what the law says.
Including a president who, over 9 years, tortured an estimated 34,000 trade unionists, student leaders, writers, politicians. 3,420 men and women were dumped dead in public places. 398, nearly 400 people, simply disappeared under the Marcos era. And you think this guy's a hero?
The president...
Do you have a short memory?
The president just followed the rule. The law says all presidents can be buried there, regardless of whether you're bad or good. The law did not distinguish, so we cannot distinguish. That's a principal dictum in constitutional law.
You talked about the court case in New York. In Hawaii in 1995, a court found the regime had abused the human rights of thousands who'd been tortured and killed, and ordered the Marcos estate to pay nearly $2 billion in compensation. Less than 1% was ever paid. So why are you closing down now the Presidential Commission for Good Governance?
I don't know. Well, what do you mean? The PCG?
Yeah, which has been looking for the money. You don't think the victims of Marcos's reign deserve that money that they were promised in compensation for all that they suffered?
The victims, they were the ones who fought the government. I was an activist during the time of Marcos.
He was a tyrant.
I fought the government, and when I joined the forces against the Marcos government, I said to myself, if I do this, I'm open to either arrest or being killed. That's part of the advocacy or a cause. You don't ask the government to pay you when you're jailed because you're fighting for a principle. You're selling yourself.
You think Ferdinand Marcos was a hero?
From whose point of view? Mine?
Yours, yeah.
From my point of view, he did what he had to do as president.
Dumping the bodies of 3,400 people on the streets. You don't care about that.
You must remember that the president cannot monitor every movement of every soldier. If the soldier made abuses...
Oh, so he didn't know what was going on? The buck didn't stop with the president? He knew what was going on.
I don't think he would allow that. You must remember that people would like to, you know, be closer to the president, doing things for the president. And even if the president doesn't know it, if from their point of view it would be good to the president, they would do it. For instance, if they feel that this particular person is going to kill the president, they will kill him so that their president will be saved. Are you telling me now that you will blame the president for that?
3,420 men and women dumped dead in public places, 400 disappeared. Salvador Panelo, thanks very much for being on.
Thank you also.
Thank you.